Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Conquer everything and compromise nothing. This show brings you real, raw, and vulnerable conversations. If you have never liked small talk and have been on a personal growth journey for a long time, stay tuned as Martine and her guests share empowering stories. Now is the time to own your past and look toward your future with hope. Believe in your dreams, and all that you want to achieve is possible. Transformation Coach Martine helps you accept and love you for you. It's time to listen to your heart and tap into your unlimited potential. You have the answers you need inside. Sometimes you just need the right guide to help allow transformation to happen. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. Happy Friday, everyone. Best day of the week. For those of you who don't know, my show is live every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And my show is about the resilience of the human spirit, and that we can overcome anything, and we do. My guest and I are proof of it, and my guest, this is his second time back. Welcome, Jason Blount.
Thank you. I'm really nice. It's really nice to be back. I'm really happy I got invited, and especially the topic we're going to talk about, because I really means a lot to me.
Awesome. So we are going to talk today about resilience and mindset, and just the fact that I will give an example here. This is a good one. On this weekend, Mother's Day, I was not able to, I guess, how do I put this? Something didn't quite go right. I had expectations and they were not met, and I decided to just kind of take my time with this, work on why this was bothering me, or, whatever. And I just chose that, hey, I'm in charge of my day here. I can be happy or not. I can choose to reflect on the fact that I have a great relationship with my children, and that's what it's about. And, just choose to be happy. So, Jason, what do you think about choosing our day and just choosing to make the best day? That's it.
Well, you and I talked about along the same lines, and I totally agree. It's a lot of things, and having resilience it's just a facet of the diamond and how we deal with life. It's a learned experience. We develop as we're from little kids, in the environment we're in. We're kind of pre-programmed on how to respond to things, and it carries through for how we live our lives. And I was sharing with you last week my own struggle I was going through. And it wasn't so much it took away my resilience. Part of my resilience allowed me to reach out to somebody, knowing I'm okay to express my feelings and my emotions. I don't have to tuck and run or swallow the pain or the difficulty, or to suffer it and to work through it. I could ask for help and feel good about it, knowing that this is all about getting perspective, learning from it, and how do I deal with that? How do I grow from it? And you're absolutely right. It is through that you can kind of take a deep breath and realize, okay, I'm 100% human in going through this. Everybody else on the planet has gone through some degree of this or that, and to be able to give myself some grace and not let something overwhelm me, and just to work through whatever that might mean for the given situation.
Yeah, absolutely. We are at choice. And my situation, it's just, I knew I had information to back up some of what I was feeling here, but at the same time, it was just kind of like a little bit of sadness. And I thought, I can make a decision to honor myself as a mom and choose to be happy. And when I'm feeling a little more empowered, actually talk to the person who I just wanted some recognition from. I just wanted that, but I was able to talk to him when I was feeling a little better about the situation, and it was received well.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we can definitely do that. And I commend you for reaching out, not only to me, but to others to figure out, what was going on inside, and just a process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how, like, normally my shows, we start out with a story. How did you come to a place? We've talked some last time,
Yeah.
but where did you come to a place where you could kind of like step back and learn to take that time?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you that a lot of my resilience, I didn't even know what really resilience was, or some people correct me and say it's either resilience or resiliency. Same thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a firefighter, I was trained on what are the experiences I would go through. And
Mm-hmm.
it'd be incremental in terms of your training. They give you some stress, go through a situation, a little bit more stress, a little more equipment to carry, a little farther to walk.
Yep.
And as you experience more incidents on the scene, you do build up a strength, a resilience to how you deal with these things, which is good because it allows you to not be overcome emotionally with the event that's in front of you, and
Yeah.
allows you to engage your rational brain to come up with solutions rather than just focusing on the problem.
Right.
What I learned the hard way was that wasn't always in my own personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to a degree, but like I said earlier, we all learn things when we're kids and how to deal with things.
Yeah.
And there's things that my parents really weren't that skilled at. And so therefore I didn't have a lot of skills. So as I got to something really major in my life that completely overwhelmed me,
Mm-hmm.
I realized I didn't have the resiliency. I froze. I got angry. I withdrew.
Mm-hmm.
I begged God to make it change. I'll do anything you want me to. I
Yeah.
pleaded, and I froze. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I did that, that was a time where I lost everything. I lost my marriage. I lost family. I lost
Mm-hmm.
my finances, my career. And I remember walking around just pretty much in a daze,
Yeah.
4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to come out of that, and I realized, all these things I learned in the fire service about resiliency,
Mm-hmm.
it really is a framework, and we can all have our own framework. There's no real probably one. There's probably a bunch of different methods and things people come up with to look at resiliency, but for me, it was gained there. And I learned to kind of frame how I was going to be rebuilding my life or look at my life, my circumstances based on that framework.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it really taught me to have proper perspective on things,
Mm-hmm.
to have a purposeful attention on. These are the four things I broke it down to: is having
Yeah.
perspective, having a purposeful attention,
Mm-hmm.
having practiced mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that word mindfulness could be a big word, but I'd be happy to
Yeah.
unpack that. And
Mm-hmm.
then promoting self-care. I was so good at stuffing and beating myself up.
Uh-huh.
That was my default. It's all
Yeah.
my fault. I did this, whatever it was my cause, or I contributed to it. It's what I deserve. And I was just, too dirty to take a bath. I heard one pastor say to me, kind of another analogy is, it doesn't make any sense, but we say it to ourselves, I'm just too dirty to take a bath. I was just really good at beating myself up. There's that
Yeah.
perfectionism, that fixed mindset. And through that last part was really just kind of giving myself grace and understanding that it's the meaning I gave something, and learning through it and realizing what really happened, and what I can grow and learn from it and move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that peace you get through going through something out, all that resiliency, because the resilience is really just a learned process we all go through,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
where we understand what's ahead of us. There's going to be risks, and so we experiment and try something, we fail,
Mm-hmm.
and then we learn something, and then we go through that same cycle again. And sometimes we get stuck, we get overwhelmed. As we work through that, the end of that is we gain some knowledge, some understanding, we gain perspective, we gain some sense of grace and peace for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Going on to the next, we gain some confidence knowing that I went through a really tough time. We can use some other euphemisms for how bad that was
Mm-hmm.
to give it proper
Mm-hmm.
weight. But I feel so much more secure going through that. Going through life now is, I got through that. I mean, pat
Yeah.
on the back. And we can all look at our situation and realize, I'm here.
Yeah.
I went through a really, whatever that difficult, tough time was that you had or that I've had, we would look back and go, I made it. I got some scars from it, but I made it. And those
Mm-hmm.
scars are evidence of my own strength, my own belief in myself,
Yeah.
and my tenacity to work through something to get to a better place. And it is evidence of, I can do it. I can do it again for the next challenge that comes up.
Yeah.
And I can encourage others, not just tell them, hey, things are going to be okay and hunky dory and you'll be okay and just tough it out. but I can say, hey, buckle up. This is look tough.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. There's some things that may help you. It's up to you, and you can talk to me. But if you want to share, I can help you with this. I can be somebody you can talk to. So it allows us to offer that up to somebody else. Where in that other place, I think right before everything kind of went sideways for me, I had a friend that I knew that he was going through almost a parallel situation. And the best I could muster up to him was, that must really suck. That must be really tough. Yeah. That's as deep as my pie tin would go on that subject. I really couldn't bridge the gap and speak to that depth that he was going through, because I was just going to go through it myself a week later.
Yeah.
And now to be able to sit with somebody in their discomfort and their struggle and really get the fact how much is weighing on them, and knowing there's time to just not say anything and be a good listener, and there's another time to make yourself available for when they want to talk. It feels so much better being with somebody, having some semblance of what to do, what not to do, as opposed to just pat on the back and good luck to you.
I know. Gosh, yeah, I know. Some of the things I've been through, I definitely wouldn't wish on anyone, but boy, have they taught me. Boy, have they taught me. They've shown me strength. And then, you mentioned like these scars and everything. And even like for me, I remember like I'm an avid walker, light runner kind of person. Every single morning I got to do it. Doesn't matter the time of weather or whatever it is. I got to either be outside, or if it's that bad, the treadmill, but I got to be moving. And I slipped on black ice one time and broke my shoulder here. And I've got quite the scar for it. When I have cancer, I have quite the scar from it. And one of my surgeons said, he goes, I think scars are beautiful. They are your warrior marks. And I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that, because that is evidence, that I see that, hey, I've made it through quite a bit, and I can be of use to someone else, you know, to share with them. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Those scars can be either encouragement to somebody else, or they can be a warning. Don't do this, or this is what's going to happen. Or I went through this and this is what happened. I got through it. Yeah. Excellent. I love that.
Yeah. I definitely have a whole way of looking at stuff like this now, that it could be actually quite beautiful instead of a blemish on my person,
Yeah.
It's a warrior mark. Yeah. So we're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back to share some more about resilience and mindset. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Jason Blount, and we have been talking about mindfulness and resiliency and, well, how to get up when things have brought you down. And one of those things is just to remember, what you've been through before, and you've got evidence. And some of us even have evidence on our bodies of scars and all that we can reflect and think, I've done this before. What can I pull up to remember that, hey, I can do this again? So, Jason, we were talking about, because we've become resilient human beings, and coaches, that we can offer a bit more than maybe someone who hasn't been through as much, that we might say to someone, hey, buck up, buddy, or hey, it's going to get better, or whatever. What have you learned in life, in your circumstances, in just being a safe place of listening?
Yeah, I learned a distinguishment, because you're right. But guys are really good at this. They'll pat on the back and buck up and deal with it. Just tough it out. In fact, that. And there's a place for toughing it out. Toughing it out is great for the short game, because sometimes you really just gotta. That's where that grit comes in, where you just gotta grit your teeth and go through this. Do whatever I can to survive. This joblessness, this relationship, this toughness. But it doesn't last. It only lasts for so long, because we can only tough things out for so long. And adversity happens, and it doesn't discriminate. It happens to all of us. And it's the meaning we give it. And if we tough it out, our minds, our bodies, our spirits were not designed to tough it out for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm.
where we see evidence of disease. That's where we see evidence of stress, and that plays on the body. So we see evidence of lack of sleep and nutrition, weighing and wearing on the body. And so we're so full of stress, toughing it out.
Mm-hmm.
The body's got to give, the mind's got to give, the spirit's got to give. And we see that in how we see people just react to one another, because we've held it in for so long. And then that one person says one thing to us, and we just respond, and we blast them, and they have no idea where it's coming from. We don't even know where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. So when we get so overwhelmed, there's something that happens in our neurology called our amygdala gets hijacked, and that where the signal that's supposed to alert us to a threat really can trigger that amygdala, that emotional response, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Yeah. And
I mentioned that earlier, where we can get angry and we can attack something, we can withdraw, we can beg for mercy, pray to God that. And then there's a reverence I have in this. I know I have my faith, so I'm not diminishing that. I'm saying sometimes we make negotiations because it's all we know to do. We make to try and, oh God, if you just save me from this, I'll do whatever you want me to do. We freeze. We don't know what to do next. And if we hold that for too long, that becomes our default. And we don't let our mind kind of rationally think through things until we take a break. So what I learned is a little distinction between being tough and being strong. Yeah. And are you a boxing fan? I don't know if you are or not.
If it's real.
Okay. So there was
a big
time boxer in the 60s, 70s. He was known as the Bayonne Bleeder. He was called Chuck Welpner. Chuck was known for taking the punishment, the beating, and wearing down his opponents. They would get so tired that he could wear them out.
Wow.
Now, when he came across a really skilled opponent, it was a different story. In fact, he fought, don't quote me on what year, but he fought Muhammad Ali and lost to Ali.
Oh, okay.
But Chuck was known for taking the beating, and you couldn't beat him down. In fact, it's said that he is kind of the antithesis of the Rocky movies. Just continually take the beatings.
Yeah.
So toughness has an attribute, but it's short-lived. Strength can carry out a long time and carry you through something. So I'd like to make a distinguishment just based on these two words, so they're not blended together. So when you're tough, you believe failure is not an option. When you're strong, it means you understand that failure is actually part of life, and it's how we grow and how we learn.
Yeah.
When you're tough, you act the part, you wear it, you mask your doubt, yourself, your fears.
Yeah.
And when you're strong, you know that you can show your feelings, and you're okay with who you are, and you're willing to explore working on yourself and your weaknesses and shortcomings.
Yeah.
When you're being tough, you want to go at it alone, out of pride and out of fear from people kind of figuring out how weak you are or how frightened you are. Yeah. Being strong involves humility and curiosity and asking others for help so you can find the answers you may need. It doesn't mean you like knee jerk when something bad happens, you call somebody immediately. It doesn't mean that. You may want to like little time to kind of let this marinate, to kind of let the feelings subside and think through things. And then you can reach out to somebody from a different place, as opposed to just help me, somebody help me. That's where that strength is. Yeah. Tough people are stuffers. I was a good stuffer, still can be. We are really good at hiding our emotions, and that adage, never let them see you sweat, is tattooed somewhere on our body, or it's a sign we have, or it's an anthem we have. Never let them see you sweat.
Yeah.
Again, short-term solution, that's great, and it's gritty, it's strong, but over the long period of time, it wears on the body and the mind and the spirit. Strong people accept and acknowledge how we feel. Being tough means controlling others and circumstances so nothing can harm us, insulating ourselves, isolating ourselves, controlling others before they have the opportunity to control us. So we take control. Being strong means being strong means controlling our own minds and reasoning through things, and how we give meaning to things and keep things in their proper perspective and place. Being tough means denying the pain.
Yeah.
It means I can go through anything. I don't need a lot of sleep. I don't need to eat all my food, my proper food. I can outlive this stress.
Yeah.
I cannot be worn down. Being strong means accepting pain. and learning from it. In fact, one of my favorite quotes in the movies is from The Princess Bride, where it said at one point, life is pain, princess. Anybody selling you anything different is selling something.
Yeah.
And it's not to mean that life is completely pain, but pain's a part of our experience and part of our life. In fact, as we go through relationships, there's a process called rupture and repair. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, a little bit. Go. Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm.
So it speaks to the fact that as we go through our relationships, both as little children on up through adulthood, as we constantly go through things that cause a rupture in the relationship, which gives us an opportunity to make an assessment how to repair it, or if it's beyond repair, how to move away from it. But that rupture and repair builds up a resiliency and a strength of how we speak up for ourselves, how to ask for things, how to be curious about things, how to seek a solution, rather than defaulting to an emotional response of attacking, of running away, of freezing, of negotiating. So that process, pain is that instrument that causes us to grow in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I really like that analogy, because that was one thing. I had one guy still in my head I worked with. He would call me a tough guy. And that was kind of his default when he talked to other people. And it was really just kind of tongue in cheek. But as I was going through hard times, I heard people just say, you just got to tough it out. You got to put your big boy pants on, whatever that euphemism is. It is to outlast it.
Yeah.
But how do you outlast something that you don't see an end to? That's another.
Exactly.
That's another thing I'll share with too, is how do you outlast something that you see is lasting forever? But keeping things, understanding to gain strength versus defaulting to being tough guy and stuffing things and trying to control circumstances. The more I delineated, the more I realized I am trying to control things. I was trying to control an ex-spouse in some areas. I was trying to control the areas of my finances. I was thinking small, and I was trying to control so many things. I didn't realize how pervasive it was. It was all out of fear. It was all out of loss. And I got to distinguish, and I realized, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay to say I'm overwhelmed, but I'm okay. But I'm overwhelmed, that I need to work through some things right now. I know I won't be overwhelmed for long. So that distinguishment between being tough and being strong was really key in framing things. Another iteration of what I learned in the fire service is all personal. How can I behave better? Because it's not a fire ground dealing with somebody else's issue. Now my house is on fire. How do I deal with this?
Right.
Right. And do you have time for me to share with you about the river? I mentioned that earlier.
Absolutely. Yes. I did want to say just briefly, sometimes it's like we just keep going and we keep going and we keep going. And I'm really looking forward to you talking about the outlasting something that seems to go on forever, because there was a point where you almost just, not everyone, me, almost a point where I could just feel like a toddler, like I'm on the floor and I'm just kicking screaming. I cannot do another thing. Yeah. And it's almost like my body's like, my brain, my mind, my body is, everything is like, I'm done. No more. And we really need to catch these things before we get to that point, because we do reach a point like we can't be tough anymore. We all have to sometimes tell ourselves, okay, I know you need to get out and get for a walk right now. You need to get a little time, but right now let's get through this. But I promise you in 1 hour, we'll do it. I think that's really important, to give ourselves that grace and to keep going, especially in these hard times, is to know that, okay, I got a little bit of a break coming and I will take it. But right now I've got to be a little tougher, but then I can share with somebody, I can take a walk, I can do this.
Exactly.
So I apologize. I maybe I should have saved that. We'll go to the, go to a break, but then we'll come back, to your story. It's just, I just think it's so important to give ourselves grace when we are, like I was saying, just kind of stumbling around or wanting to be on the floor or just being kind of klutzy or whatever. It's time to just stop and ask ourselves what we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. We'll be right back for more good stuff, transformational talk. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. We've been talking today about resilience, about getting back up, and also giving ourselves the grace to step back and say, whew, I need a break. And as we're talking about on the break, that sometimes we reach a point where the pain is so unbearable that we entertain thoughts that we shouldn't be entertaining. We've all been there. I was talking to one of my young friends today, and she lost her dad yesterday. And I was just checking on her again today, and she goes, watching my mom and just me, she goes, I've never lost anyone. And she goes, I really don't know how I'm going to get through this. And I just told her, I'm here for you in any capacity that I can be. But those are there. Sometimes the pain is so great, you really don't know how to handle it.
Yeah. Wow. So when I was going through my, it's loss. How does this loss is what fills this void that I see, I'm experiencing, and I perceive is going to get worse. When I was going through mine, I was driving my company car I worked for the fire department. I was a chief officer. I mean, you're a chief officer. There's only so much you really can share with your peers or your subordinates. The appropriateness of it is there. So there was people I shared things with. As I'm working through it, though, as I drive from my work to my house, I was explaining during the break that I found myself looking at power poles differently and trees differently. And I thought, well, just one quick move of the steering wheel and this could all be over. And I never did anything. And I thought I was unique in that moment. And then I started hearing from others around that time or even years later that found that they also felt they were very unique in saying, I just wanted to die. They didn't act on it. But I think I have a better sense of where people get to that point where they act on that. I'd been to many scenes where people had followed through with those things.
Yeah.
And there was different reasons. I won't go into all that, but I got a sense for where life seems to be so overwhelming. And so the issue is so pervasive that it is taking away, it's creating such a hole in your life where you cannot see how to get through it. And the pain is so great. What you really want is for this to end. You want a happy ending. You realize this pain may last a month or a year. And I just wish I was a year from now.
Yeah.
I wish I was a year from now. And you realize I got to go this whole year. And I don't know if it's going to end after that.
Yeah.
I just want this to end. And that feeling is the body saying, we can't tough this out, really.
Yeah.
We can't outlast it the way we're operating.
Right.
And I wasn't really thinking along that depth of it until later. I realized, oh, that was just me realizing I can't tough this out. To go back to that analogy, I got to talk to somebody. I got to work through this. But that feeling was incredible. It was incredible. It was incredible to feel my neurology. I was itching from the inside out. I told one therapist, I said, it's like the itch is on the inside.
Yeah.
And then the whole neurology is lit up in that. And to be able to, again, just accept that for our body saying and our mind saying, we've got to find ways of working through this to make this stop, to lessen it, to make sense of it, not to be so much in our emotions and our fear. For me, my fear was forecasting such a dark place. I was actually ashamed to be a father. It was just like this one big bucket of shame just kept dipping it in and like, nope. And it was horrible. And it was not something I like have a badge of honor, pride about. Like I felt so shameful. I felt these bad words to garner up some kind of empathy. It's admittance that it was so bad and so ingrained in me. It's like it was like, this has got to stop. This can't go on, because this is actually forecasting how I feel about my kids. And then they're not the ones to blame in any way, shape, or form, but I'm already forecasting bad things upon them. and to be still be able to work through things with people and be able to be vulnerable, to gain courage, because courage really is gained from honoring your vulnerabilities and sharing those with others to gain strength. And I had a great counselor. I was talking with somebody the other day about the counselor I had. I often joke that he did open heart surgery with a chainsaw and no anesthesia, because he would just cut to the truth. And there's a couple times I wanted to reach across the table and deck him.
Yeah.
He would say something to provoke me and really piss me off, make me mad. But he did it to provoke me and shake me from the stoic, tough guy that I was being, to get me to work through my emotions. And I'm so thankful he did that. I wanted to share with you the analogy I got out of whitewater rafting.
Yes.
I'm not a pro. I did it annually. We have a wonderful river here in Southern Oregon called the Rogue River.
Yeah.
It's got everything from its riffles, which is just, the fun little bumps. Yeah. And it's got all the way up to class 5s, and you got to have a permit to go down certain parts of the river.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And I learned a lot of lessons on the river. And it was kind of as I was coming out of things in my own life, I was floating on the river, and it kind of came to me that this framework for resiliency was here on the river for me. Because on the river, on a nice hot sunny day, you've got your riffles, your rapids, you got your slack water, your calm water, where you can just kind of kick back and chill and have a drink of something, and maybe have a bite of sandwich you got in your cooler, and just kind of spin around the water and look at the trees and see an eagle or even a bear on the shore, depending on what part of the river you're on.
Yeah.
And then you've got your rapids, which can be, depending upon how you want to make sense of it, it can be terrifying, it can be anxious, or it can be exhilarating and exciting and challenging and testing. And on the river, you've got boulders and rocks and trees, you've got curves, you've got V's that go into rapids, and you've got people that have more skill than you that are calmly floating down, and you got people that are just spinning alongside you, just hoping they make it through.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a picture of life, and it's going through, that's where I just got this idea of, it's all about having perspective, looking down the river, whatever your topography is in life, your landscape in life is, the road you're on, is to look and see what kind of perspective you have on that's ahead of you, and how are you going to focus your attention to, have your purposeful attention on what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
And having practice mindfulness, which I mentioned earlier. So I'm kind of going back to those 4 points. And having some self-care, because there's times on the river you got to paddle, you got to work hard to get through the rapids, and you got on the other side, it's like, well, enjoy the slack water now.
Yeah.
Don't be so tense. It's kind of relax and enjoy it, and look back and go, I made it through some incredible rapids back there.
Yeah.
That was fun. And at the time you're going, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. And you look back and you go, it was fun. You want to do it again? Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
But so I learned that having perspective, realizing that the river's going to have hazards, life's going to have hazards, we're going to have pain, and it's just a matter of accepting the challenges of them. And you realize that I'm not ready for the big rapids yet. I'm going to take some smaller ones, kind of build myself up.
Yeah.
But we're not avoiding things. We're going to go through things. We don't have fanciful thinkings about life, that things are going to go rosy for us. We're not going to come through this life unscathed. We're going to go through life, get our scars, and what those are going to mean to us. I think about, Tony Robbins said this the other day, and it's been sticking in my head, is to have perspective means to realize that nothing's permanent. Just talked about that. To make it being pervasive, where if something bad happens in an area of your life, it doesn't mean all of life is this way.
Right.
And don't take it personal, because we all go through this life. We're all going to go through circumstances. That's just part of life. The only thing that's different about you and I is our experiences and how we experience them. But we all have the same challenges in life. Men or women, old and young, we're all going to go through the same experiences.
Yeah.
Having purposeful attention. When I was a firefighter, I learned that if I go into a house that's on fire and I know the seat of the fire is in a back room, or somebody I potentially want to rescue is in the back of the room, back of the house, I'm still paying attention to the hazards along that path to my objective.
Yeah.
But I'm focused on the solution rather than the perceived problems. I'm still aware of them, but I'm not going to be drawn to them and getting off track of dealing with the solution. is when I do that, I'm in trouble.
Mm.
Practice,
Yeah.
practice mindfulness. That was huge, especially going down the river, because I learned from somebody that was much more experienced than me that you're going through and you're fighting the rapids. When the rapid comes up on you, what's your natural inclination when something's coming up against you, like a big wave, is you pull back.
Yep.
And you dig and you fight to get. He said,
Yep.
no, stop that. You lean into the difficulty, into the rapid, and use your
Right.
paddle to steer you, as opposed to fighting and expending all that energy and getting all emotional, upset,
Right.
scared. Focus on keeping yourself upright by leaning into it, and use your paddle to steer you through. Totally different experience. And I was able to focus, and there was a point where I was actually going backwards through rapids I couldn't go through before, forward very well. I'm actually looking at the scenery going, this is really cool. I'm in control and command because I took control of myself. I'm not letting the river control me. I'm still in the river. I'm still experiencing it, but I made it to mean something different. And the last thing was to promote self-care. I get done with that rapid, man, I made it through. And pat on the back. Look what I did. Look, it's sunny. It's beautiful out here. Got a little splash of water. It's still in the 80s on the river. So it's warm, it's sunshine, and you just have a sense of gratitude and acceptance and honoring yourself for what you went through.
Absolutely. Gratitude and the pat on your back. And yeah, I did it. I love that. We're going to take a break in a moment, but yeah, I would actually like to talk a little bit about distraction, especially in a firehouse or, any time in life, of how we'll come back to that. Tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on my webpage is jasonbcoach.com. You can reach me through my email, jasonbcoach@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or get in contact with you if you reach out to me. You can also find a document on my webpage that speaks to building resilience. It goes through exactly what we've been talking to today.
Excellent. All right. We'll be back, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Jason Blount, and we've been talking about mindfulness and resilience and surrendering, leaning into situations. And Jason, you mentioned, because you were a fireman and being in a situation, being in a burning house, for example, and you're aware of what's going on around you, but you can't get distracted. You have to focus on the mission at hand. How would you put that in everyday situations or really tough situations?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I got you. So in being a fireman, it is a constant evolution of getting trained and trained up and getting experiences and getting acclimated. There's some horrible things that I've seen, but I still have to operate in such a way that I take care of the solution. I either treat a patient. I am in the middle of a teamwork where I'm putting out a fire or pulling somebody out of a car, whatever it is. So you get acclimated, and you're working with people that are acclimated, or they've already, so you're just kind of gleaning off their skill set, kind of like I was explaining on the river with that person I was with. The closest there's two analogies I can think of. When you're driving at night, there's something that happens when there's an emergency vehicle with its flashers on the side of the road: tow truck, ambulance, fire engine, police car, public works. In fact, public workers have a high degree of risk, and you'll hear the stats once in a while about how often on the side of the road they actually get hit by cars. There's a phenomenon that happens, especially at night, where those very lights have actually drawn cars into the incident. And our mind is pre-wired to see hazards. One. And second, it's another aspect, not second, but another aspect is it also is trying to make sense of our surroundings at all given times. So in the middle of the night, when we see those lights, it's supposed to be a hazard, it's supposed to warn us to slow down. That doesn't always happen. Some people are continuing to speed through, and they're actually get drawn to that light because their mind, they're not consciously or unconsciously, are trying to make sense, and they see that and actually get drawn to it and create an accident. So part of that, being aware of the solution, not the problem, is being aware of your surroundings and not being drawn off to a problem. The other way to kind of look at this is, for me as a firefighter, I saw a lot of traffic accidents. What is that? What is that called when the cars go into each other, kind of at a racetrack, and they're doing beating each other up in those car derbies? You ever heard of those? Okay, another analogy. So for me, I could come across a car accident today, even though and I could come across a car accident, and for me, I'd say, well, it's just a fender bender, and I can estimate based on what I see that this is the possible damage inside, and somebody's probably hurt to this degree. Somebody else has no experience seeing a car accident before, may come across that, and they may go home and say, and this report is being, there was this horrible car accident. It was horrible. There was 2 cars involved, and there must have been like 1 million people around. So they'll grandize it, and they'll create this big story for a couple of reasons. But one, they may not have the experience to be able to see what's really going on. So in their mind, they just see something really bad. For me, I go, yeah, it was a fender bender, and it caused traffic to be backed up, and there's a few people that were trying to get around it, which clogged up traffic and made it look worse than it was. So when we're in a situation, where does that come back to being a firefighter and looking at the solution of the problem? When we're in a situation, it's easy to kind of see the what we see as the big problem, and to get pulled into the emotions of maybe even want to tell the story that we saw this horrible thing and it was terrible. Well, in reality, it wasn't that terrible. I tend to minimize things, which can work out against me sometimes. But what it does is it allows us to go, if we were to go up to that car accident, we may say, it's a fender bender. I see people are standing. They're not laying out on the ground or laying in the car. It's not as bad as it first appeared. We can kind of get a sense as we look through it and we rationalize things versus being so emotional to go be angry about something. Those 2 idiots were driving a car. They're probably driving at a high rate of speed, probably those dang kids down the road. Or we're so afraid that we don't want to approach because we don't know, is there gasoline all over the road? Well, you look, there's no gasoline. People got a fender bender. So when we start to rationalize and engage our cognitive thoughts versus being emotionally charged with something and drawn to things, we can kind of get a better sense of what's going on in the entirety of whatever that incident is. Now, when you're in the middle of a personal issue, like a relationship or something that's really got a lot of weight on us, it's not just an event we witness. It might be something we're involved in, like a relationship falling apart. It might be the health of a child. It might be the loss of a job or something like that. It makes it much more purposeful, more purposeful to pull ourselves out a little bit and gain some perspective. If we just slow down and take some deep breaths for about 6 minutes at a time, whatever breathing practice we do, taking some deep breaths and then holding it, letting it out. After about 6 minutes, it's enough to let our neurology calm down, let our cognitive thoughts engage better. We can also kind of step back and get some relevance on the entirety of what's going on. That's where it's good to have good friends that we trust and aren't going to just tell us what we need to hear, what we want to hear. They're going to tell us what's good for us or be good listeners. It's where therapists, coaches, counselors help us step outside of ourselves and see the bigger picture. So it's not so overwhelming. It's not so much in our face. It also means the basics, what mom told us, eat all your veggies, get some good night's sleep, get some exercise, all those things. When we're in the midst of something right here now that involves and pulls on our hearts, involves our minds so much, when we can pull ourselves back and again, not tough it out, but we can reach out to others for help. We can take some deep breaths. We may even, if we're in the middle of a big argument, we may say, you know what, I know this is important to both of us. I need a 15-minute walk, and then I'd like to come back and talk. That purposeful time out with the intent of coming back to working on things together, if that would be the example. The loss of a job, where, what do I do now? What kind of skills do I have? All those questions are flooding through your mind. Give yourself time, permission have a day or two or whatever you can afford to just
Mm-hmm.
let those emotions kind of wash through you, and like a river itself, let that river flow and don't get stuck where you're in stagnant water with those feelings. Let it kind of flow through you and work through
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yep.
Again, I mean talking to somebody, working with somebody to kind of get all that out, get all that energy out before you make a decision where you want to go from here, as
Yeah.
opposed to being in a panic and just being all consumed by what's going on, the
Mm-hmm.
problem itself. These are some things that help me to get outside the problem, to seek a solution. And again, like I said before, sometimes it took an hour thinking upon the
Right.
problem. Sometimes it takes a couple of years. There were
Mm-hmm.
things that were really hardwired in me that took me a long time to work through, to be able to focus better on the solution. Even when I said in the moment I'm focused on the solution, still looking at the problem, because that's how I spoke of it.
Yeah.
And now looking back, I can see, okay, I learned a lot, and I learned that I was really stuck there more than I gave myself credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But it also helps me to have grace for others when they're stuck, and maybe point something out with their permission that maybe they need to hear, that'll kind of shorten their journey a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what it was for me, to be focused on the solution and not the problem. The framework I
Right.
got as a firefighter and really got tested and refined, seeing fire again. It got
Yeah.
refined in my own personal life going forward.
Yes.
Oh, and
Yeah.
even mindfulness. Huge fan now of, in the morning, having some time just quiet, praying, being in meditation, setting my intention, how I want to feel and how I want my day to be, versus just being a leaf in the wind. And well, got that suck wind meeting coming up a little later, and or this is going to be difficult, or I'm going to be nervous doing this. Instead, say, no, it's going to be a fantastic day. I'm so grateful for these opportunities. Can't wait to see what happens. Start talking these things into your day so you're not so overcome by the problem. You are the
Yep.
solution.
That's
You
right.
are the author of your day.
Mm-hmm. That's it. One of my colleagues was saying something. Well, kind of like, we're all not leaders, but we are leaders of our own life,
Mm-hmm.
even if we're not leaders out in the world of transformation or whatever. But we are leaders of our lives, and we can make that choice. That is why I, like you, I start every day with prayer, meditation, gratitude. I
Mm-hmm.
get my butt outside, out into nature, and make sure that I am grateful for my surroundings and my home and my family. And, if we start out that day and decide, hey, it's going to be a good day,
Yeah.
I am choosing this. Yeah, everything can shift, and you can find a way to get through even the toughest times if you decide you're going to do it and you reach out
Yes.
for help. And
Even when you're going through tough times, really,
yep.
it's a really difficult day ahead.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just going to live in that, it's exactly what it's going to be. But if
Yep.
you can start out your day with gratitude and
Mm-hmm.
determining how you want to show up, it's going to lessen the impact of that difficult conversation, that meeting, the reality you're working in, you're
Yep.
leaning into
Yep.
for the rest of the day. You lean into it with a good
Absolutely.
attitude and a good mindset, rather than let that wave overcome you and push you around, because that wave's going to be there regardless.
100%. That was good. Thank you, Jason. I so appreciate you. It's been a really fun show, informational show, and it's always nice spending time with you.
I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. So where can everybody find you again before we say goodbye?
You can email me at jasonbcoach@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
My webpage is jasonbcoach.com.
Yes.
And you reach me there. And again, there's a document right there in the first page that has a resource for building resilience that we just talked about today.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I want to share with all of you that I'm taking my TEDx business out into the public. I have gotten some of fabulous colleagues of mine TEDx talks, and I now do this for others because I've realized how much that it's actually needed and wanted. So if TEDx, getting on that red dot stage, is part of your dream, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you with that. And we'll see you all next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Transformation with Martine, real, raw, and vulnerable conversations. Listen or watch live every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on transformationtalkradio.com as Martine and her guests have deep, meaningful conversations, sharing empowering stories. Step into your passions and lead with your heart. If you are ready to accept and love you for you, visit martineemmons.com and start allowing transformation to happen today.